Well, hello again sports fans. Sadly, this is yet another crash video. The Ranger, which has been performing so well up till now, failed to return from its last mission and I had to go and pick up the pieces. Unfortunately, I still haven't really figured out what went wrong. After a couple of weeks of very ordinary weather, I was finally able to get out the other day for a fly. I started off testing the Cyclops Tornado functions on the ground to make sure that they were all working before I threw her up in the air. It's been so long since I flew it that I spent a little bit of time refamiliarising myself with the switches and switching between pilot assist mode and loiter mode and autopilot mode and return to home mode, and they all seem to be switching perfectly normally. The plan today is to make another assault on my 10-kilometre distance goal. I have left it a little bit late. It's late in the afternoon. There'd only be about an hour of daylight left and the sun is very low in the sky, as you can see. But I figure I should be well and truly back before it gets dark. So the hand launch goes off without a hitch, and I set about putting some altitude on so I can do a quick test of the tornado functions before heading off to the south. When I get it up around the 100-metre mark, I slip it into loiter mode and walk back to the base station to set up for the 10-kilometre flight to the south. So straight away she settles into a nice broad loiter circle and seems to have no difficulty maintaining the altitude that she started with. So everything's looking quite good. I do 3 or 4 circuits, and eventually when she's heading in roughly a southerly direction, I take it out of loiter and put it into pilot assist mode, which is heading and altitude hold. And I increase the throttle and put the nose up to gain some altitude. The plan is to climb to about 450 metres and fly down the left-hand side of the valley, subject of course to the quality of the video signal I get. I've replaced 3 of the patch antennas on my Quantum Overlord video receiver with 9-turn helical antennas, and I'm hoping that this configuration is going to get me greater range than with the patches. I've also made an effort to tune the dipole antennas I'm using on my Easy UHF transmitter and receiver. I found that on my last couple of flights I was starting to lose a significant amount of signal once I got out past 7 kilometres. So I reached my target altitude at just under the 2.5 kilometre mark. So I level out and let the Tornado take over responsibility for the heading and altitude controls, and I pull back on the throttle to bring the current consumption down to around 7 amps. So just coming up on the 3.5 kilometre mark, I need to make a course correction to keep me in line with the river. Everything seems to be going pretty well. The RSSI is still high and the video quality is good. I haven't had to make any adjustments to the antenna so far. So at 4 kilometres everything's still going well. The Tornado is flying the plane, maintaining the heading and altitude, and also has some control over the throttle, which is bouncing up and down a little bit. I'm not sure why. I've got a little bit of a tailwind behind me, but there's not much in it. The sun's not that far off setting and the shadows on the right hand side of the valley are becoming quite pronounced and the video is getting a little bit dim. So we're here at 6 kilometres, still with the RSSI up near the 100% mark and still no real video dropouts, and I still haven't had to adjust the video receiver array at all, so things are looking really good. So I start to see a bit of reduction in the RSSI signal around about the 8 kilometre mark, but nowhere near what I was seeing last week before I made the antenna adjustments. The video is still good. I still haven't had to make any adjustments to the antenna array, and I'm feeling pretty hopeful at this stage that that 10 kilometre barrier could be broken. It looks like the wind may be picking up a bit. There's a little bit of roll in the Ranger, and the Tornado seems to be bumping up the current consumption to maintain the cruise speed. The RSSI seems to be dropping down below the 75% mark for the first time, but there's no sign of the plane going into failsafe at this stage, so everything's looking okay as we come up to the 9 kilometres, and suddenly this happens. I'm able to recapture the signal briefly by rotating the antenna, but it doesn't last long. After about a minute, I flick the transmitter switch into return to home mode and settle back to wait for the video to come back as she turns for home. After about half an hour, it becomes apparent that that isn't likely to happen. So there's still a little daylight left, and I decide to go for a drive along the road that runs to the west of the valley. All I really knew is that when she went off the air, she was about 9 kilometres south of home, had about 450 metres of altitude, and was heading south. Unfortunately, I'd left my lost model tracking beacon at home, so I was just hoping that I might get lucky and be able to spot the wreckage on the valley floor from the road. So I end up taking a secondary road that ends up bringing me out close to the river at round about the 10 kilometre mark. I can't actually see anything on the ground, but I end up firing up my Overlord video receiver and waving it around, and lo and behold, I pick up a very faint signal from the video transmitter. It's not strong enough to show a picture on the video monitor, but it does give me a heading that I can follow. By this time it's almost completely dark, and all I really want to do is just go home, but I'm worried that the video signal may not last till the morning, so I decide to make an effort to go and have a look, even though I don't know how far away it is. So I pick up the Overlord and start heading along the line of the antenna with the strongest RSSI reading. So after about a half a kilometre and about 92 barbed wire fences, I hook the portable video screen up to the Overlord, and I'm pleasantly surprised to start getting a good strong signal from the Ranger. It looks like the GPS is disconnected, but at least it's telling me I'm heading in the right direction, and after about another half a kilometre I'm able to spot the red glow from the LED on the video transmitter. Needless to say, I was pretty pleased to have found it. All the bits were in a fairly small radius, so I'm guessing she came down fairly straight and hard not long after the video went out. I did manage to find the Mobius, but it's out of action and the SD card is empty, so I guess I won't ever really know what happened. So by this time it was fully dark, so I just stuffed everything into my little pack and headed back to the car. I took these shots the next day. The fuselage isn't too bad, though the battery trays are all just matchsticks and the camera is completely ruined, and the battery will never be square again. The wings and tail really should be replaced, and if I can I will, but it's possible that they can be repaired if I get desperate. Obviously I'm pleased to have it all back, but it would be nice to know what actually went wrong.